guys, it's Kaz here, and today I'm going to be doing a disability rep recommendations video. So the reason I'm doing it right now is because in exactly a week from today, the 2nd of November, I am co-hosting the Join the Six Readathon round 2. That's for round 2, and this readathon is based on the Six of Crows. Each member of Six of Crows has their own prompt sheet, and Kaz's prompt sheet has one of the prompts as read a book with disability rep. So I thought, hey, why not make a video about that? Definitely go and check out the announcement video for the readathon if you want to join, because it's going to be so much fun. There's amazing prompts for all of the different characters. If that little Kaz one gives you a nice little taste of what's to come, then go check that out. It'll be linked above, below. It's 10 days long. Go and check it out. Anyway, back to this video. I have quite a few books here to recommend, so I'm not going to spend too much time on them, but I have read every single one of these books, so if you want to know anything else, ask down there and hopefully I will be able to reply. Well, let's just jump straight in. First of all, let's go with the obvious one because of what this is about, and that is Six of Crows by Lee Bardugo. In this, Kaz Brecker is the main character pretty much, and he walks with a cane, he has a limp. There's also another character who is dyslexic, which is a learning / reading disability, so that also counts. This is a fantasy series about a bunch of ragamuffins trying to do a heist, is how people normally explain it. You know about this book. There's a prison, they want to break someone out of the prison, all the characters are great, read the book, join the readathon, all that business. Next I have Spinner by Michael J. Bowler. This is about Alex, who is a spinner, which means that he can take anybody else's pain, whether it be physical or emotional, and take it away from them. Because of him having this weird sort of power, he was put into foster care. He's in quite a crappy home at the moment, but this book is kind of a thriller, horror, creepy vibes book. There's something out to get him. There's this weird cat, there's a weird music box that whenever that starts happening, bad stuff happens. There's freaky stuff going on. His teacher has been murdered. They're trying to figure that out. And Alex is in a wheelchair. All of his friends are the members of his special ed class, so all of them have different sort of learning difficulties. We have ADHD, we have somebody on the autism spectrum, someone that has a pronounced stutter. All of them are dyslexic. They've sort of coined themselves the dummies, and it's just a great book with great rep. Next up we have Elephant Shoe by J.S. Edge. This is a sort of coming of age gay romance sort of business. Basically it's about Mikey, who a few years ago his parents died in a car crash that he was also in, and so his friend. Those two survived, his parents died, and he was shipped off to his grandparents. A few years later his older brother tells him he has to move back home, and he's got a lot of anger and annoyance towards his brother because he feels like he just kicked him away to the curb, and now he's finally settled in with his grandparents. He's been ripped back out of that. So first of all, this does deal with dementia because his grandma is ill and that's why he has come back. Also, his best friend who was in the car accident is acting a lot different. He's kind of ignoring Mikey. Mikey doesn't know why. There's this whole friends to strangers to friends to lovers kind of thing going on, and he has a disability that I'm not going to tell you what it is, and I know disability isn't a plot point and all that sort of business, but in here, because you're reading it along with Mikey, you kind of discover it as he does, so I don't want to give it away because then you'll know, and it's good to see him trying to figure out what's going on as well. Very angsty, very moody. Mikey is very angry at his brother, so if you don't mind angsty characters, then you will love this hopefully. Next up, The Wolf in the Water by Josie Jaffrey. This is high fantasy based in a civilization that has sort of ancient Greek vibes, but there's 10 different clans in here. Each of them has power, and the lowest clan, the Glaucs, our main character Carla is the daughter of the head of the Glaucs, and when he mysteriously dies, she's trying to figure out what happened. Was it a natural death? Was it somebody doing something a little bit naughty? There's also a new stepfather involved who is horrible, and this whole mystery about a wall and what it's keeping on the other side of it, and if it breaks, what will happen to everybody living there. Carla walks with a cane, she has a limp, her leg was twisted because of an illness when she was younger, and it's great to see from a disabled main character's point of view because she doesn't let it hinder her. She doesn't let it be her most defining aspect, but she's also not one of those books where it's like, oh, you can defeat anything, you can do anything if you want. She has problems with it and she can solve it. She's just a person who also has to deal with her disability, which is great. Next up we have Educating Simon by Robert Reardon. This is about Simon, who is a little bit annoyed because his mum marries this random dude and they have to ship off over to America. He's not a big fan of the new husband, he's not a big fan of having to live in a totally different place. He wants to be in England, go to uni and all that jazz. And while he's over there, it's sort of a coming of age story about him growing up and stop being angry so much. And his stepsister struggles with Asperger's syndrome, so that is quite a big aspect of this book. He also has synesthesia, which is where you can sort of see sounds and taste colours and all that business. It's LGBTQ+ as well, and another side plot is him teaching this young trans girl for the spelling bee. So a lot of fun stuff going on, a lot of good times. Educating Simon. Next up we have Leo Loves Aries by Anita Sunday. I read this on Kindle, so that's why it's there. This is a new adult male-male romance sort of thing. There's these two twins, a boy and a girl, and they live together. They need another person to live there so they can pay rent. I'm probably explaining this terribly because I don't have the synopsis to look at, but basically the sister of the main character, the twins, she's blind, and it's done in a really good way. It's not seen as something that makes her not be able to have agency over her life. She's just, you know, chilling, doing her own thing. She lives there, she goes to work, she does her thing, but she's blind as well. So Leo Loves Aries. It's also slow burn, male-male romance, like I said. Next up, El Defo by CC Bell. This is a graphic novel, and it's basically a non-fiction, but also she's a rabbit, just about CC Bell growing up and having a hearing aid and what that was like as a youngling, but a rabbit youngling. Wonder by R.J. Palacio. This is a middle grade book about a young boy, Augie, who has facial disfigurements. There's something he was born with. I don't know exactly if there's a specific technical medical term for it, but he's always been homeschooled. He finally goes to a new school and it's all about him trying to learn how to survive and grow up and be part of a normal school system, getting friends, getting bullied, being his own person. It's really good. It's a middle grade. The Definition of Us by Sarah Harris. This is mostly about mental health because it's based around a mental health therapy centre. This group of characters that are all there. Their therapist doesn't call into work one day and they go on a road trip to try and figure out what's happened, why he didn't come in. That's the basic gist of it. Like I said, most of it is about mental health. Each of the characters have different things that they're struggling with, like depression, anxiety, there's an eating disorder in here, ADHD. But I've put this on this list because one of the characters is also on the autism spectrum, so that's why it's on this list. We're about halfway through, so let's break this video up with a little bit of a message from our sponsors. A Quiet Kind of Thunder by Sarah Barnard. This is a sort of young YA coming of age about a girl and a boy falling for each other. The girl has selective mutism and the boy is deaf. He's new to the school and they sort of come together and learn each other's similarities and differences and what it means to have these conditions and how it's different, how it's similar, what each of them has to deal with, how they feel about that. That's what it is. The Shock of the Fall by Nathan Filler. This is another one that is a lot to do with mental health because it's about a main character who has schizophrenia and it's a lot to do with him being in a hospital and thinking about his past and his present and different things that happened. I've put it on this list because something happened in the past to his brother and his brother had Down syndrome, so it's disability rep in that sort of way. But his brother isn't the main character. He does talk about him throughout this book and talk about what happens and why he feels the way he does about what happened. So that's why I put it on this list. Next up we have Stick by Andrew Smith. This is a very dark one, so I haven't really mentioned if the other books have trigger warnings. Some of them probably do, so I'm sorry about that. ask down below if you want to know. But this one definitely does, because it's about a young boy and his brother, and they live in a really terrible family situation. They get mentally and physically abused. His brother also gets sexually abused, and it's very heavy and harrowing. And Stick, the main character, was born without an ear, and he's deaf in that ear, so even the way it's written, sometimes it'll be like a bit of the sentence and then there'll be a bit of a dot 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 gap, because it's the amount of time it takes him to hear what the other person's saying. But yes, this deals with a lot of heavy topics. Next, Obscura Burning by Suzanne von Rien. This is a sci-fi book where there's multiple realities. Kyle cheats on his boyfriend with his female best friend, and then a fire happens and one of them dies. But after that event, he keeps switching into these different realities. One reality, his boyfriend is alive but in a wheelchair and his best friend's dead. And in the other reality, his boyfriend is dead and his best friend's alive and he is covered in burns from the fire. So it keeps jumping between those two things. And it's about him trying to figure out why there's this random new planet in the sky, Obscura, and this coincides with that planet being discovered. So trying to figure out what's going on, and you also learn about what happened on that fateful night. So yeah. Next, Death Stalks Kettle Street by John Bowen. This is a cozy murder mystery. People keep dying on the street from supposed accidents, but our main character keeps getting these weird packages through his door that relate to the accidents and that proves that maybe they're murders. So our main character has OCD, but the other main character has cerebral palsy, and I'm sorry that I'm just saying main character, main character. I literally read it this month, but I can't remember the names because that's the sort of person I am. But yeah, it's a fun time, cozy mystery. We have two main characters, and I feel like the OCD and the cerebral palsy are both done really well. Says the girl that has neither, but to me, I feel like they were done well. Next, we have Raise It Up by Nick Wilgus. This is sort of a family drama, coming of age, slight romance-ish. But basically this is about Cyrus and his family is full of these secrets. His dad is really abusive to all of them, and his younger brother, it doesn't say specifically what it is, but he has some sort of difficulties, learning, mental difficulties, which is why I put it in this list. You do kind of get the reasoning later on, I think, if I remember correctly, but mostly this is about this dark family times. And there's also a fostering section of this book where he moves in with this other family, and then that's where a little bit of a romance happens as well. But a lot of it is about the secrets in his family and him sort of discovering them and learning about why certain things happened, and his abusive father and his other family members. So yeah. Then of course we have The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I feel like everybody's read this, but I'm sure you all know that it's mainly about two people falling in love that both have cancer. But also in this book you deal with a missing limb because of the illness and blindness because of the illness. So it deals with different things that happen because of having cancer. So there we go, The Fault in Our Stars. Don't need to really say any more about that. You know it, you've heard of it. Next up we have the Magnus Chase series by Rick Riordan. This, I'm sure you can guess because Rick Riordan, is about mythology, Norse mythology in this one. There's quests, there's different creatures, there's fighting, there's fun times, and there is a deaf elf as well. And then going on with this sort of theme of Magnus Chase, I have a few more. These last few are more very obvious books that have slight disability rep in them, especially for sort of this readathon, in a way that maybe you won't own a lot of these books that I've mentioned and won't know how to get your hands on them, but hopefully the next few you will have at least heard of. They have very, very small little pieces of representation, but it still counts for the readathon. But also if you're after just the disability recs in general, then hopefully the rest of the books will help you along with that. So first of all, probably not the best sort of book to read in a readathon, but hey, you've got 10 days. A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. This is a massive book. Some of them are split into 2 parts, so are not so big. Fantasy, politics, fighting, you know, Winterfell, the Starks, the Lannisters, all that business. And throughout this series there's different sort of things. Obviously you've got Tyrion who has dwarfism, and then a bit later in the series Jaime Lannister loses his hand, so he has no hand. So it's little pieces here and there, and you've probably heard of this one. Also just Percy Jackson series in general, or any Rick Riordan book in general, because any demigod has dyslexia, so that is a learning disability, so it counts. I'm sure you would have heard or read or owned these ones, so it's kind of a really easy one to jump to. This is about Greek gods and fighting and quests and everything else that I said about Magnus Chase, except the Norse bit. This is Greek. Also The Dark Artifices by Cassandra Clare. There is a character in here that is on the autism spectrum. I don't know if it actually says it in here because the Shadowhunters don't like to talk about human, well, mundane medicine or mundane things. So they don't like to admit that there's something actually medically and scientifically nameable about this character, but it does have that in here in this series. And then last but not least, this is probably the biggest reach, and I literally couldn't even remember it until I reread the book recently. The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. One of the characters gets hit really hard and loses hearing in one of their ears. So if you're really pulling for strings and you really want to do the Kaz prompts but you have no other books, then this one, and then I guess the other 3 books in the series, is a very loose version of a book with disability rep, so it could technically work if you really can't get your hands on any of the other books. This is a series about a bunch of people looking for a dead Welsh king. And there we have it. That is my disability recommendations video. I'm sorry that I didn't go into the books really concisely and well. I'm terrible at just spewing actual words that make sense, so hopefully you got sort of a little bit of a synopsis of each of these books. Like I say, if you want any more, let me know down below, or check out Goodreads or whatevs. But yeah, let me know down below if you're joining in with the readathon. If you've heard of any books here that you've never heard of before and you're now interested, let me know. And if this is your first video by me and you enjoy it, then please check out some of the others. And if you continue to enjoy it, then please subscribe, that'd be awesome. Anyway guys, I'll see you in a few days with another video. Bye.